The human brain is spectacular. At any point in time, about 10 or 11 million single bits of information hit our brain. However, we are not able to realize, understand all of them. In fact, only 50 of them can actually be understood, and about only 7 of them being remembered in the short term. So you have this information that you somehow need to filter. If we couldn't filter, we wouldn't survive. Given that we have those filters that enable us to very quickly assess an information, very quickly to make a judgment on a situation, it also leads to us making the wrong judgments, too quick judgments. There are a couple of experiments in neuroscience that show us that our brain does not deliver to us the type of information that best reflects reality all the time. So being shown only a portrait of people in a very, very quick sequence, we are able to make a choice, a decision, a judgment within less than a second of whether we trust this person or not. We might feel very uncomfortable articulating that this initial gut feel reaction is there, but it's in all of us. We can see biases in all types of ways that we interact with people, given those quick initial gut feel reactions that we have. Now, the depth of those biases is something we can actually measure. There's something called implicit association testing, which takes one of those biases and tests via response time how quickly people are able to respond to or against it. And the outcomes have been shown to influence people's recruiting decision. Let me give you one example on how these biases matter for female leadership. If we have a certain stereotype, a certain idea of what a female should look and behave like, we enjoy to see kindness, we enjoy to see humbleness, we enjoy someone who would rather ask others for opinion before asserting theirs, or better even asking questions before asserting an opinion. Now, this is what we like because it's somewhat congruent with a stereotype that we have. However, this is not what we see a leader behave like. So while people might say, oh yes, she's fantastic, she's such a nice person, the answer to the question, do you want her to be your boss, will be maybe rather not. So some women have chosen to do the exact opposite. They become assertive, they are the first one to speak up in a meeting, they are the ones that would actively negotiate for their salary. And what research shows is that those women unfortunately do not get the same performance evaluations as male counterparts with similar behavior. What we see here is called a double bind situation. So what to do? We heard we've got this fantastic brain that is able to help us in a split of a second to make important choices. At the same time though, we know that it can be misleading. The answer lies in something that the Nobel Prize winner Kahneman introduced in his Thinking Fast and Slow book. What we've done so far is we focused on thinking fast, we focused on our gut feel, we focused on our biases. Now we just need to start and think slow. So thinking slow means to have introductory sessions and just articulate that yes, the human brain is biased, therefore we are biased. And to give your organization a vocabulary to actually talk about these things. Because if you do not have the words to speak about them, it's extremely hard to bring them up to the surface. So something about awareness, about the vocabulary, and then about identifying concretely what those biases are that you have, that your organization is carrying. And then you can start with countermeasures against them. One very concrete example is the mini-me bias. What is that? Given the fact that I have been successful, people that remind me of myself will be equally successful. Therefore, I'll pick them as my mentees around me. If your organization is going through a transformation, what you'll have to do is to make sure that those senior leaders make a thinking slow choice of not picking the young chap that reminds them the most of them, but picking the person that the organization wants to see as a future leader. So if you indeed are going through a situation where your strategy has changed, also think about your leadership model one more time. Because very different behaviors can lead to the same outcome. And you as an organization might be biased to a certain way of doing things. Just reflect and ask yourself if this is the outcome I would like to see, or if this is the strength I'd like my leaders to develop. How would it look differently between the way that a man does it, a woman does it, an introvert does it, an extrovert does it? So when you have people discussions in the room, there should be someone who's really skilled on the topic of unconscious bias, who can then ask the challenging question. And would you have said the same thing if the person would have been a woman or a man, or if the person would have been from this or that geography? So someone who's truly skilled and who can point out behaviors in the group that otherwise would not have been surfaced.